Plataforma de información musical y radio online. Rutas Alternas. Escucha.
El día de hoy tenemos el gusto de conectar con Tom Blankenship porque My Morning Jacket está próximo a lanzar su nuevo disco larga duración, un disco homónimo, y para platicarnos los detalles de esta nueva placa, de esta gran agrupación, vamos a esta videoconferencia con Tom. Hola, Tom.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Tom, where are you right now?
I'm in Portland, Oregon. I have a day off. This is like the second leg of our tour for the year.
You have been playing these past weeks, right?
Yeah.
A lot of gigs, a lot of venues.
Yeah, started about a month ago, I think, yeah.
And how was this process of being playing some of the songs that you will release in your next album? Because some of the singles we have already listened, but there are new songs that you are playing live. How is this process before the release of the album?
It's been fun. We've been kind of slowly introducing them, like a couple here and there. It's always kind of a trip to see how longtime fans are going to respond to new material. But it seems like it's been pretty positive. I mean, it's fun for us because they're new,
yes.
And just get to have something new out there in the world. We get all excited, but it's kind of at the same time, it's like, oh no, what's going to happen?
I know, because I have seen your set list and they are very different in between, right? You choose very different songs for each night.
Yeah, we really try to mix it up because we have a lot of the same folks coming out to, a handful of shows, and we want to make sure that they're getting a different experience every time.
I saw your streaming from Forest Hill Stadium in New York, and
Yeah.
I think it was amazing, these new songs that you play in that gig. In color, one of the songs included in the next album sounds amazing. Fucking amazing, man.
Yeah, that's one of my personal favorites on the record. Yeah.
And with the middle, with the Marvin Gaye songs, it was a magical moment in the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think that was something that just happened in rehearsal when we were in Louisville, and we just kind of snuck it in there. And then, that was on September 11th, and it just felt like this is kind of meant to be, have a little tribute in there. So
it's an interesting process because there are a lot of expectation from your fans, from the audience, to listen your new album. It took you 6 years to release it, right?
Yeah.
What happened during that 6 years, including a pandemic time, right?
Yeah. Well, we had finished recording The Waterfall, the last record. That was in like 2013, 2014, and it came out in 2015. We toured, for a year or so behind it. And then the band just kind of took a break. Jim had a solo record, Carl had a solo record. We toured with like Ray LaMontagne. We did some Strand of Oaks, 4 of us did that. And so we kind of did like these 4 shows in 2019, about 2 years ago now. And it was kind of, I think, in a way, like a test for us. Like, let's see how it feels to like get back out there and do it, and see if anybody still cares. And we ended up having so much fun that immediately went into the studio. Jim had already had new songs and stuff, and so we did like this 2-week session in LA, and it was kind of a no pressure situation. Like, let's just book it and have fun and see what happens. And we had so much fun that we just kept it going.
What can you tell me about the process of creating the songs? You have composed and write the songs before the pandemic, during the pandemic. How important was this time, these weird times, to make these songs?
Yeah, so it was actually, it was finished up. Our last session was in March of 2020. I remember because I flew home early because there was a tornado. At the time, my wife and I were living in Nashville, and there was a tornado that came through our neighborhood.
Oh.
you know, and just like leveled blocks there. So I flew home early, and then literally like 2 weeks later, everything shut down because of the pandemic. So yeah, it was something that was finished up before everything started. And then through that process, you know, that record was delayed by a year. And so instead we released the remainder of The Waterfall. We just had, you know, we got the sequel to The Waterfall. They could only come out during the pandemic when, you know, we couldn't tour behind it.
Yes. Yes, because when you make an album, it's not difficult, or it's not different to spend time inside a studio and in a lockdown with your bandmates, writing and composing. So not that different when you make an album that this period, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't have been. Yeah, had we recorded that record just a couple of weeks later or whatever, it would have been a pretty similar experience, you know.
But what about the environment, the feeling of the people that, I mean, we have a lot, we've been afraid, we've been maybe with a lot of depression, a lot of mental health situations. What was that important in the process of this album?
I mean, I think, well, it's strange because, you know, I mean, all that stuff was written beforehand, but I do see on this side of it that lyrically, you know, it does kind of speak to those times as well, because there was a lot of, there was a spotlight thankfully put on how unfair this world can be, you know, to a lot of us, you know, and there's a lot of that going on lyrically as well, just the social unrest that exists in life in general. So it is strange to think that, I mean, if anything, it's like, you know, it amplified the way that a lot of us felt, because we were all living through this thing together, and it also allowed a light to be put on these issues that we face, you know. And I think the big thing was just for us to realize that we weren't alone in any of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's weird because we were actually alone, but in connection with a lot of other people, right? With some friends, family, even with musicians, artists. I mean, we try to find these connections even through a video conference.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and thankfully, as much as technology can sometimes feel like a demon that we live with a lot of times, it has allowed us to stay connected in the worst of times. Yeah, and your support system isn't too far away, you know. We're all carrying each other in our pockets these days.
I know. So Tom, your new album is a self-titled album. Why did you decide to do this?
Yeah, that was Jim's idea. It's so funny, yeah, because why haven't we had a self-titled album before?
I know.
And it's also great too. I mean, one thing that I've always loved about the band name is it doesn't sound like anything, you know, like it doesn't sound like a metal band or an indie band or whatever, you know. It really truly does not mean anything, which is great. And I think that's one of the greatest things about music, is that you get to kind of write yourself into the story of whatever the song is and whatever the feeling the music gives you. So yeah, you know, for a record that's about new beginnings and a second lease on life, it's kind of cool for it to be ambiguous in that way.
And it's also pretty important that, as you said, the songs are very different in between, but there's a narrative in the album, right? There's a concept, there's some issues that you're dealing with and you are trying to express through these new songs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the second song sums up a lot of it, that, you know, we just need to remember to love one another and love ourselves, you know.
Yes.
We're always in need of more love. Yeah, that's a big one. Listen to each other and try to get back to that sense of humanity and nature and the good things in life. You know, the reason that we're all here is for each other.
We need to think more in that kind of things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like every day, we all have
Yes.
the opportunity to do that. And we all need the reminder for sure.
Tom, is it hard for a band like My Morning Jacket with all these years of career and all these tours of these festivals to make a new record? Because there are a lot of people that want to listen to your new songs. The press is all over you. I mean, there's a lot of factors besides making music. Is it important for you? Is an extra pressure, or how do you handle that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't really feel the pressure. And I think we've been lucky that, we've been with ATO Records for a long time, since the third record. And they never pressure us, it just feels like family, and I think that's the thing. Funny thing about music is that it's also a business. And
Yes.
I think we've been lucky that we're surrounded by business folks who feel way more like family than business partners, or and that's been a huge part of it for us. So it's kind of like that same kind of spirit of let's just see what happens and let's have fun. It kind of extends to the whole process of releasing the record itself as well.
Yes, and I think, Tom, that it's also important, as you said, to work with a label like ATO Records, that you have a lot of freedom creatively, a lot of freedom on your own process. I mean, they do their job and you do yours,
Yeah,
and everybody's happy, but everybody is an important contributor to the new experience of the album.
totally. Yeah, yeah. And it isn't one of those things where it's like, well, this is the way it's going to be, and then we just hand it in or whatever. And they're listening and we're listening to them. And yeah, so it's like, it's one of those relationships. It's everybody just wants the same thing in the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom, you will release the self-titled album of My Morning Jacket on October 22, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's also pretty cool that you will release the album on vinyl, right? And not only in one edition, but two editions, and a double LP with an amazing artwork, lyrics, digital download. What can you tell us about this physical format?
Oh man. Yeah, the artwork itself, it was done by a guy in Lexington. Of course, I'm forgetting everything at this point. But it's really, really beautiful.
It's Robert Beatty, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and it looks like it's like a super timeless kind of album art, album cover, gatefold, double vinyl. I've seen, I don't know how many different variants, like colored variants of the vinyl, so I'm not sure which is which. But I've seen numerous different colored vinyl. It looks amazing.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
It's cool. It's cool as a musician to release these physical formats, but it's hard as a fan to choose which one I'm gonna buy.
One. Yeah. There's too many choices now.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was a kid, there were like, well, there wasn't a lot of vinyl being made in the early 90s, I guess. And it was just all black vinyl. That's what we got. We were happy with it.
I know. But it's also an experience, right? To play a vinyl in a turntable, to listen in your home system. I mean, there's nothing like that. It's an experience of listening music.
Yeah. Because I remember that as a kid, like my dad just sitting me down and playing, Dark Side of the Moon and all kinds of records for me as a kid. And just that experience is kind of unparalleled. And so I'm glad it still exists. The tactile feel of holding an album in your hand and seeing the artwork and reading all the liner notes. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's amazing. And we can do that with the new album of My Morning Jacket on October 22. We can listen, of course, in all digital platforms. You will release it also in CD. And Tom, you will come to Mexico big time, right? Next year.
I hope so.
You will
have
one big holiday in Cancun, in Riviera Maya, in early March, right?
Early March, yeah. And then hopefully we'll come back down again and do some headlining shows just, that's not the festival. So
yes, because last times you have played in festivals also in Mexico City, right? In Corona Capital.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's been a while.
Yes.
8 years, probably longer.
Yes, maybe in the last tour, right? In the Waterfall tour.
Maybe. Oh man. Old man brain, I can't remember.
That's why you have to come next year big time, not only in one big holiday. It's an amazing experience to play in Cancun with a lot of bandmates, with a lot of public, and not only from Mexico, but all over the world. But also you have to come to Guadalajara and Mexico City and Monterrey. You have to visit a lot of cities here in Mexico, man.
Yeah, we would love to. Yeah, we always talk about it, like, we have to get back. So we'll figure it out. And hopefully 2022 is looking a little sunnier for all of us.
Yes.
And with the way of the world. So hopefully we'll be fine.
Looking forward, Tom, to listen your new album on October 22, the self-titled album of My Morning Jacket, and to see you live here in Mexico, as we said, in one big holiday in early March in Cancun. But maybe you have some time on spring, maybe.
Yeah,
come to other cities.
Yeah, we haven't quite jumped into it yet, but there's been talks of like, we need to sit down and figure out the rest of 2022. So keep me posted.
I will keep informed of the shows of My Morning Jacket here in Mexico. Congratulations of the album, man. It was really, really amazing. Not only that streaming, that sounds incredible in a very emotional moment, but the songs of the album, love it. I had a blast listening to the album.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, just thanks for taking the time to listen. That means a lot.
Please, next time, don't take 6 years to make new music.
Yeah, right.
and neither to come to Mexico, right?
Yeah, and more return trips to Mexico.
Well, looking forward to listening to the new album. Congratulations. And Tom Blankenship from My Morning Jacket, thank you so much for this chat with Rutas Alternas.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for chatting with me.
Plataforma de información musical y radio online. Rutas Alternas. Escucha.